Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a B-movie review, and today I'm going to be having a look at Barbarian, the Last Great Warrior King. So, in case you don't know, this is actually a remake of the Deathstalker film, or a loose remake at least, although it could be looked actually as a sequel as well, and I'll explain why in just a minute. Basically, it tells the story of Cain, who is played by Michael O'Hearn, who is kind of a wandering barbarian with apparently no allegiance to anyone, essentially. But in this kingdom, there's a civil war happening between an evil sorcerer and the last of the sort of like the good kings as such. And the evil side is winning, and they've captured the king's daughter, the princess. And Cain, the barbarian, basically gets bumped into a witch, who essentially sets him on a quest to rescue the princess and also claim, so there's some magical artifacts, a sword, a goblet and an amulet. And the evil sorcerer, played by Martin Cove, is essentially trying to sort of get these three elements ultimately and have ultimate power. So Cain sets off and kind of screws various women along the way. And he meets this kind of, this is quite a funny scene. There's he sees this like a slave girl being sort of attempted to be raped, I assume, by sort of a group of thugs, and she's got this like what can only be described as an Ewok. That's a kind of like a companion. So he rescues the damsel in distress, obviously sleeps with her and the Ewok, and dispatches the bad guys. And then the girl just disappears. We don't see her again. But the Ewok character called Whoopi kind of sort of hangs around with him for the rest of the film. And this is quite a funny. I mean, this. Let me tell you this one thing. This film is one of those films where it's so bad it's actually quite amusing to watch. It's quite funny. This guy is just in a. It looks like it may be played by a child or a very, very small person anyway, and it's just kind of like this big cat costume. And the film has mainly an Eastern European cast, and some of the lines are obviously overdubbed to make them clearer, to sort of, have the accents and stuff. And this Whoopi creature is constantly going, "Oh, Whoopi!" Whatever. It's quite funny to look at, to be honest with you. So Cain then goes on, he meets a female Amazon warrior who joins him in his quest, and of course slips there as well. And they eventually recover one of the sword, and he faces across against the sorcerer's second in command, who is the Dark Prince, who is this sort of black knight with kind of like a monster face, and when he speaks his lips don't move. It's quite funny. And they kind of meet the good king, who sets them on the quest to rescue the princess and stuff. And then basically, like the original Deathstalker film, there's a big tournament at this with the bad guys, Carter, or what have you, and they enter the tournament in hopes of sneaking in. Now, I mentioned obviously this could be looked at as either a remake or a sequel, so it really follows the same story as the original Deathstalker. But it actually uses a lot of footage from that film. So really in two places. So when they're kind of in the castle, when they're doing this tournament, they essentially lift the orgy scene from Deathstalker, which is quite a long sort of scene, and basically put it in this film as kind of what's happening here, along with a couple of shots of this film's sort of cast. So. But the other sort of main bit it does with the original Deathstalker footage is early on, it kind of like it's almost recapping what has happened and who these sort of like, what these sort of items are and why they're important. And it uses footage from the previous Deathstalker film to sort of show that. So in that respect, you can almost look upon it as a sequel almost, but it is technically, it's a remake first and foremost. It's not officially part of the Deathstalker series. So, you know, depends how you want to look at it. It's very much in the same vein, but the interesting thing is when you watch this film, and then you see the stock footage from the Deathstalker films, and bear in mind the Deathstalker films are a fair bit older, you realise actually the Deathstalker films were probably fairly lavish for a sort of a low-budget production, and, you know, the sort of set design and on this one, the sort of like the cast, the extras, the costumes, is so much in smaller scale. And it's obviously a very, very cheap film. I have to say, I quite like Michael O'Hearn as the sort of the lead role, Barbarian. You may have seen him in the fan film World's Finest, where he played Superman, and that's I'd recommend you checking that film out by the same director who did the Batman Dead End film. So he plays Superman in that, and that's the same guy. He's not the greatest of actors, and he's, you know, but the guy's obviously very much in shape, and he's, you know, he looks quite good with the sword and everything. I'm never so keen on sort of like fantasy films where people have modern haircuts, however, but there you go. Anyway, so, you know, they rescue the princess, and then in the end, you know, you've got the bad guy transforming into a kind of a monster, which the effects don't look too bad on him, I have to say. But it is such a cheesy film. Some of the way the supporting cast, like the Amazon warrior, kind of like helps him. The way she delivers some of her lines is absolutely hilarious. It looks like she's read part of the line, then has forgot to say a bit, and then just adds it on at the end. It is so funny to watch. And like they say, the special effects and some of the sort of the armors and stuff like that, and then the Dark Prince, one of the bad guys. It's actually quite funny. Like I used to love these kind of like these sort of cheaper sort of sword and sorcery films. I quite like the Deathstalker films. I quite like Wizards of the Lost Kingdom, that sort of thing. And this film is in that sort of vein, but it's a cheapy version of an already cheap style of film. So, you know, if you're looking at it as a sort of, if you're trying to look at it objectively, it is a pretty terrible film. But it is one of those films where it's kind of so cheesy and so kind of like cheap looking. It is actually quite fun just to sort of like laugh along with it. So, you know, but you know, I can't really give it kudos for that. But if you like that sort of thing, you might get a good kick out of a so bad it's good film. But as a film, as a sort of just a, you know, piece of, you know, a film, and, you know, a film itself, I'll have to give this one probably a 2 out of 10. So it is pretty low on anything really redeemable. I quite like Michael O'Hearn, but you know, other than that, it was a bit of a chore to sit through some of the time anyway. But unless you're kind of like laughing along with it. So, have you seen it? How do you think it compares to the sort of the Deathstalker films, which is kind of like semi-attached to, I suppose? Leave me a comment, and I look forward to seeing you next time.